good to see you again.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Been, I guess, been quite some time. Earlier this year, January, we met at the Archangel Academy. Yeah. And thank you for having us in Victoria. It's nice to be back here in this beautiful city of yours.
I wish it was mine.
Well, you live here, so
the city I reside in.
Yeah, we should have had more time. But hang out, then you could have given me your tour of the city you reside in.
Yeah, you'll be back.
Yeah, I definitely will. But yeah, I wish I had more time. It's so beautiful here. How long have you been out here? You're originally from Vancouver.
Yeah, I grew up in Vancouver. I originally moved to Victoria, I think in 2007. We acquired a business, and so I moved here, fell in love with the city, the nature, the ocean, and I also met who is now my wife. So I fell in love with both the city and my wife, and I always knew I'd be back. I lived here at that time for a period of 3 years, then went and we did some traveling. I lived in Southeast Asia for a while, did Europe for a while, and just a couple years ago we moved back here and knew that we would spend a significant portion of our years on this beautiful rock.
Nice. Your company, CTR, interesting concept. Tell me more about it. How did it start? And where? What inspired that?
Well, it's an interesting story. So the organization is called Conscious Thought Revolution, and it's CTR.com. And what's funny is I used to buy and sell domain names in my olden days, and CTR.com was a domain that I always knew I would do something with, but I thought it would be in the ad space or the marketing space because it stands for click-through rate.
Okay.
And but part of my journey in evolution was, spending a lot of time and energy in the internet advertising and marketing space. I started realizing that I wasn't necessarily providing value or service to something bigger than myself. Like, it was really part of this capitalist, profit-driven system that I was starting to become more and more aware of. I started researching, how does the world work? What's money? What's tax? What is government? What is healthcare? What's education? What are all of these sort of systems that we exist within? And when I looked deeply, I realized that the world is orchestrated in a way where a few benefit at the cost of everybody else and the planet. And that just didn't sit well with me, especially as I started having children. I was like, this isn't the way the world is currently structured, is not one for a thriving species. And Buckminster Fuller, who's a real inspiration, he called it world game, where he wanted to create a world where it worked for everybody, not just a select percentage, not just a few, but for everybody. And I want to help create that. And so CTR is an organization that invests in technologies, entrepreneurs, and media that disrupt old paradigms and help pave the way for, the evolution of consciousness. As you're aware, we're starting to awaken to something more than just these physical bodies that we've been given. And so I think when we start asking, what is that, we realize that there's an intelligence that's in between all of us, and what is that intelligence? What's the source of that? And we can go down the rabbit hole with that, but I think that's what it creates, the interconnectedness of us, the cosmos. And so how do we bring that into our world on a day-to-day basis? And that's the CTR came to be.
That's awesome. And from what you shared with me earlier, so you're putting out content that's thought-provoking, content that has people ask questions about things that should really be questioned, and just disrupting.
Yeah.
And helping people develop a new perspective on what we consider to be normal, I guess.
Well, yeah, questioning the nature of reality is something that's absolutely crucial, and I've been doing since I was a kid. And I think one of the other important things to mention is, we can talk from a very amorphous place and talk about this shift in human consciousness. And there's a lot of woo-woo and a lot of talk about, singing Kumbaya and doing these kinds of things, which are nice and lovely, but really it's, I'm a tech entrepreneur, and so for me, it's how do I leverage technology, big data, artificial intelligence to start quantifying this notion of human happiness or consciousness. And every single day, we are all leaving our digital footprint, whether it's through our laptops or our cell phones, and it's starting to paint a picture of who we are. Who are we talking to? Who do we talk to last? What websites are we visiting? How many steps did we take today? What's our heart rate variability? There's insane amounts of data points that are being co-consumed with us on a day-to-day basis. And part of the underlying technology that CTR is bringing forth is a decentralized way of quantifying personal development or consciousness or happiness. And I think that's a key part that, is important, because we can have these amazing conversations about wanting to wake up and become enlightened, but then there's the practicalities of it. So how can we bridge the ethereal sort of connectedness we all feel to something bigger, but in a practical, tangible way that we can leverage the data and technology that we're all using in our every moment of existence?
Sure. Yeah, and I think the content and the technology and whatnot that can empower people, or at least support their desire or want to be more conscious or enlightened, or to look for the answers to the questions that they're asking themselves, is definitely necessary, because it does seem like more and more people are kind of waking up and asking questions about their reality, about what's going on in the world right now. It seems that there's enough craziness happening on our planet that people are starting to realize, okay, this isn't normal, like what's going on shouldn't be happening. And there are people for sure that are asking questions, or for those that try to just sort of look past it, push it to the side, putting content out there that's thought-provoking and creating that curiosity is absolutely very necessary right now, because we definitely need a big shift. So it's great that you're doing this, and it's definitely inspiring to know that there are people out there like yourself who are taking that on. When we met back in January, you shared something that I thought was super interesting, and what led me to come here to Victoria to see you. Your project, the Exploration Center. That's something that I thought was really fascinating, and I think more people need to know about it. So, why don't you share a bit about that? Like, how did you come up with the concept? Tell me, what. Imagine I've never heard about it before. Tell me what the Exploration Center is.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it all started for me when I became a parent, and I started asking questions of, how do I become a conscious parent? How do I become the kind of parent that is going to help pave the way for the next generation of beings? And everything I researched into the parenting paradigm didn't really align with me. It was a lot of sort of behavior modification, top-down, authoritative style of parenting. And then I came across somebody that you got to meet as well, Dr. Shefali,
Yep.
and she just completely blew away all of our notions of what parenting even is, and parent-child dynamics. And we were just like, wow, these wisdom bombs are massive. And so we started practicing that. And I mean, you just do some research on Dr. Shefali's work, and it'll just shift the way you not only view parent and child dynamics, but even your relationships to yourself. Right. And so then I started asking, well, wait, I'm only parenting for 8-12 hours a day. The other time they're sleeping, and then there's a whole chunk of day that they're somewhere else. Where is that? And I was like, school, uh-oh. Right. And I thought back to my days at school, and I was like, oh my God, like, do I want that to be the space that not just my children, but all children want to be spending the majority of their days? And I didn't feel right about having that be the way of the future. If you went into a time machine and you went back 150 years, and then you came back to today, the only thing that hasn't changed is the education system. The education system was designed to create factory workers. I mean, there's even this old meme of John D. Rockefeller when he started the General Education Council. His statement was, "I want a nation of workers, not a nation of thinkers."
Wow.
And we're still in that paradigm. And so I started coming up with this concept, and when I aligned to this higher concept of a love-based education, things just started showing up and unfolding in a way where, I think I said to you before, I wasn't doing it, it was doing me. And so I just had to kind of get out of the way. And the vision, or the sort of concept of Exploration Center is, so exploration starts with the letter X, the E's removed,
Okay.
and it's about each unique human being has their own X factor. We have a unique gift that we have to share with the world. Now, some of us, it takes us 30, 40, 50, 60, maybe never years to discover what that is. How do we help young minds discover and cultivate their unique purpose and passion at a young age? And also, how do we connect them back to nature? Nature's the most advanced technology there is. So how do we get them to connect to it and become stewards of Spaceship Earth? I mean, our generations and generations past have done a great job of hurting planet Earth and contributing to unpleasant impact, while the future generations can help hopefully restore it. So kids will be connecting back to nature and spend majority of their time in nature, and B, they'll also be developing healthy relationships to exponential technology. The next quarter century is a time in history like no other time in history. Exponential technology is growing at such a rapid rate. You look at blockchain, augmented reality, virtual reality, 3D printing, drones, nanotechnology. These things are going to revolutionize the way we think, live, and work. And so how do we better equip our children to understand how the technology works so they can use it to solve some of the grandest problems? And a lot of kids are suffering from what's now called nature deficit disorder because they're not spending time in nature anymore.
Wow.
They're on screens all day,
Yeah.
and these screens are impacting their mitochondria, it's impacting their circadian rhythms, and so they're, and then they get labeled as, with some ailment and are given pills for it.
Right.
And all they really need to do is spend time in nature.
Wow.
And just to cap it all off, it's connecting them back to nature, helping develop healthy relationships with exponential technology at a developmentally appropriate age, while all being in a sacred space of love. It's not fear-based anymore. You're not competing with other kids for test scores.
Right.
It's about helping cultivate their unique interest and using their self-inquiry to create the lesson that they want to learn in that day.
Got it.
And the future is about not the information you learn, but the quality of questions you ask.
Okay. What does that experience look like then? So how many kids per classroom? How does a child become a student of the Exploration Center? And who programs their curriculum? How do they learn? Like, what's the process with that?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, what's important is it's a community-based project. Okay. So community is crucial, and because we've especially in the Western world, we've become very individualistic, and we forgot to harness the interconnectedness of community. So part of what Phil, who's been mentoring us through this, talks about is it's about developing all C students.
Okay.
And why is that? It's because the things they need to be exploring is consciousness, cosmos, community, culture, collaboration.
Okay.
Those are pretty good C's, I think. And so the age groups is going to start with ages 4 to 14, but each group will not be segmented based on age. They will rather be segmented on developmental stage.
Okay.
So, for example, 2 5-year-olds may be at completely different developmental stages, and that impacts their learning in the traditional school system. But in a space like Exploration Center, they would be, helped to explore their area of interest based on what developmental stage they are. So they don't feel that ridicule because they're not reading or at the same speed as the other 5-year-olds.
Okay.
And we're actually in the process of revamping the entire website and brand to start taking more intake. We already have a full waiting list, which is exciting.
Wow.
And also secondly, we're getting a lot of interest from other parts in the world that really want to bring this into their community. And it's funny because I get these emails and it's like, oh, Gordy, this is awesome. We want to bring this to this city or this city or this. And I laugh because I'm like, oh, I'm really humbled. But at the same time, I'm like, I haven't even figured it out yet. Like, I'm in the process of it all.
Yeah.
And so, but it shows how there's something emerging.
Sure.
There's something emerging that is asking. And I think it's the kids. I think they've been talking to us before they even come born, and they're like, "You guys need to fix the education system."
Oh, absolutely. I didn't make it through the education system. I left, in grade 10, and I had always had problems in school just because I just felt that what they were teaching me, I just couldn't connect with. And I can just imagine how a lot of these young children must feel with just so much more available to them now. They're exposed to so much technology and information and stimulation that I'm sure when they're in the class, they're not even present. And it's obvious that the education system is failing, and it's not working because obviously the end result, the students that are coming out, the lack of creativity, and as you said, some of the deficits that children are now facing, whether it be lack of arts programs, lack of social interaction, lack of just nature, it's definitely having an impact. So it's great to hear that something revolutionary and that could disrupt that is being developed. So when we met, you had mentioned that you would be rolling it out this year, and where are you at in the process? How's that timeline or development coming together?
Yeah, it was quite an ambitious timeline. We launched the crowdfunding campaign in March or April, just to test and see what is the demand, community demand, market demand. And I said, let's launch a campaign and see if we can raise $100,000. And within 4 weeks, we raised $170,000.
Wow.
We got media and press from around the globe that was really interested in this, and it's really proved that this is needed. It's required. And so now we're developing the operational plan. We're putting together some of the essential materials for the hiring and training process of the guides, and we have donors who are ready to fund the first exploration center on Vancouver Island here, and we're aiming to launch September of 2018. But I've also realized not to be overly attached to timelines.
Okay.
The universe has its own timeline.
Got it. Now, you mentioned there's a school or a concept like this that exists already that's been highly successful for many years. Phil, who I also met at Archangel Academy, he's been there as one of the, I guess, guides or one of the, is he a teacher or principal there?
He's the founder and director of Upland Hills. It's a school in Michigan that I've had the pleasure of spending some time in, and it's phenomenal. And he is who Dr. Shefali introduced me to when I said I want to go on this bold mission and spearhead the launch of a new paradigm school. And she's like, you need to connect with Phil. And for me, I was looking for someone who had the wisdom that's done it, and he's done it for 45 plus years. And I think it worked perfectly because he was looking for someone crazy enough to want to do this. So it's been an amazing journey thus far, and it's only beginning. And I'm excited to see how it unfolds. And we're living in interesting times.
Absolutely, interesting and scary times, but at the same time, optimistic.
Absolutely.
People are starting to wake up, and with what you're creating, this concept, when it grows and parents see the value of their children learning in a very different way, really this is going to help prepare that next generation, your children and that generation, to be able to live with more awareness, with more consideration, with a higher level of consciousness for our planet and for one another. And they will hopefully be the the saviors who inherit this damaged planet that we're leaving them, and be able to make the right changes and decisions, because we're still struggling to do the right thing. And that's obviously apparent in all the crazy stuff that's happening in the world right now. Yeah, I look forward to seeing who the children that go to the Exploration Center become in the world, because it's just amazing what a child can become when they don't have the restrictions that parenting and society and peers and education put on them. I really believe that as babies, as young children, we come into this world with all the answers. We're just pure and simple, and we know the difference between right and wrong and what's good and bad, and we know it, but then we're just conditioned and taught and restricted and limited day after day after day, and then we're just a product of who we're told we're supposed to be. And we do what we can or can't from the powers that be. You know, that's why even dropping out of high school and just not really listening to teachers with authority growing up, they say ignorance is bliss. I say ignorance was a blessing, because for me, if I actually listened to people growing up, I probably wouldn't have done all the things that I've done in my life. You know, it's just been trust my own instinct and kind of going out there and being crazy enough to think that, you know, can make it happen. Yeah.
Well, I just want to commend you and acknowledge you as well, man. Like, look what you're doing. You're being bold, and you're like, you know, I'm tired of doing what I was doing. I'm going to go and share stories.
Yeah, it's pretty much about it. Well, you know, I'm lucky enough to meet interesting, fascinating people like yourself who are doing really cool things. And just more people need to know that there are people in the world who are crazy enough to try and change the education system, or crazy enough to travel around with a camera and a guy named Zach and you know, interview friends and just share stories about what's going on in the world, because obviously internet and social media, it's so powerful and so influential at the moment, and I'm sure for quite some time to come, that, you know, it can be a very destructive and negative thing, but it can also be a very powerful tool to just create awareness and let people know what's going on, you know. And however I can support, however I can, you know, share the message and help your dream become a reality, I definitely, you know, you can count on me. I really believe in what you're doing. I think it's so necessary, and like I said, I wish I could have attended a school like the Exploration Center, and who knows, maybe when I finally have children, I'll make the move out to Victoria as well. I was talking to my brother, and, you know, he wants to put his son, my 1-month-old nephew, into Catholic school, because he doesn't want his son to deal with the type of schools that we dealt with in Scarborough, in high school and public school or whatnot. And, you know, I said to him, Taurus, 15 years from now, schools may not even exist. You know, children are going to learn through virtual reality. Children are going to learn through a hologram in their living room, you know, and the education system. I mean, you may even be able to program what your child wants to learn. And that's if things go in that direction where people are liberated and education is not something that's controlled or manipulated. You know, that would be the best case scenario, that we can help cultivate and educate and shape our young children, or let them shape whoever it is that they want to be, you know, and hopefully the Exploration Center and the lessons that you'll be providing will be something that'll be available to the masses, whether it be through virtual reality or augmented reality or whatnot. It's something that definitely major disruption is needed, you know, because the education system's broken, and I think what you're doing is really step one. So, you know, I definitely congratulate you and commend you on that. And yeah, man, I think what you're doing is amazing. And just grateful we had a chance to meet and got a chance to come out here to Victoria. And I look forward to coming back to the ribbon cutting or the opening ceremony for the Exploration Center.
Yeah, sweet. Well, welcome
Thank
to
you,
the
man.
Conscious Thought
Yeah,
Revolution.
man. Thank you.